And why do you think that in today's society we've gone away from this traditional marriage, traditional relationships? There's now open relationships. There's all these different genders and sexes and all this other stuff that's going on. I'm sure we can talk about and the psychology behind that. But what's the go with all that?
I do think it's deliberate. I do think it's like structurally programmed. I do think it's deliberate, but I would give a lot of the credit to pornography. I would give a lot of the credit for why marriages are breaking down to pornography, because it teaches men and women desires that are completely against the requirements of a marriage and monogamy. So it teaches men to enjoy a lot of threesomes, teaches women to enjoy that. It teaches abuse. It teaches degradation. It teaches how important sex has to be in a marriage. And if it doesn't feel like this, it's pointless. What it does is it completely destroys the traditional values that are required for a long-lasting, monotonous, endless marriage. So a typical marriage actually does get boring sexually, actually does require some tradition. It requires you to be a bit of a prude and this, that, and the other, because you have to self-regulate. You have to be in self-control. What porn does is say, indulge in every desire you could possibly have. That doesn't set you up for a lifetime of marriage.
By porn being in any vicinity of a relationship, you are increasing your chance of divorce?
I would say so. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think in any... the thing is, there's been no research that suggests it has any positive consequences. None. What people think, oh, but yeah, it lightens up your sex life and it lightens. But here's the thing, having a really bright sex life isn't actually an essential ingredient for marriage. An active sex life, a continuous, dedicated sex life is. When you brighten up your sex life, it then becomes difficult to accept monotonous and accept, stable sex. So brightening it up doesn't actually create long-lasting sex in a marriage.
So if you are a man listening to this and you want your goal at the moment, you're between 20 and 35, for argument's sake, and you want to smash business and smash life and really send it so that in your 40s you're set up and you're well and you're doing the things that you want to move different in that time zone, what would you be saying? Should they be looking for a partner now, or should they just be in the relentless pursuit of their goals and then the partner will align at the right time?
It's very tricky for men, because here's the thing, the reality is having a woman really does tick that box off. So the distraction of women calms down slowly. When you're totally single, every weekend you have to think, what table are we getting? What holiday are we going on? You have to think about these things, like how are we getting girls? Because, you don't want to go out and this, that, and the other without a girl. And when you have someone, that box is kind of ticked off, so that distraction is off. But at the same time, you also need to dedicate yourself to your goals. So it's very difficult to manage both. And sometimes what can happen is when a man meets a woman when he's not quite where he should be, and then his career flourishes, they're no longer compatible, because he's become really, really dedicated and hardworking, and she may not have, because she was just supporting him. They're now intellectually less intimate. So it's very difficult for men. I would say it's very difficult to choose. But what I would say, it's not so much whether you have a partner or whether you don't have a partner. It's more whether you have discipline or don't have discipline with women. Do you have discipline with women? If it is a case, I don't have time for a partner, I'm only going to have casual relationships, but I'm not going to go spending thousands on a table, going to be really thirsty when I get into a club, think I need it. Discipline with that. If I have it, I have it. If I don't, I don't. I've got to focus. But if you don't have discipline, whether you're in a relationship, outside a relationship, you're not going to reach your goals, because it will trickle over into your financial success. If you've got really messy women around you, or if you are not disciplined with who you're sleeping with, what you're doing, you can end up having a child. Anything can throw you off. So discipline is the key thing.
So when you say discipline in relation, because you say discipline and you say casual in the same essence. So you say you're in the pursuit of this massive goal, whatever the goal is for you, business, whatever it is. You might have an e-com brand, you might... whatever you're doing, you might be playing sport, whatever, you're a man, right? You're in the pursuit, you're saying discipline casual. I really want to go into what discipline casual actually is to you.
I'm not a fan or an encourager of anything casual, but what I would say is some men, they engage in what they think is casual relationships with women they think are low value, and it's just a bit of it's only a matter of time before they get attached. They pretend they don't. But there's so many men I know that was like, oh, she was a hoe, but I fell in love with her. You know, or she was a hoe, I didn't take her serious, so I was so able to be myself because I didn't take her serious. Now we're in love and we're having a baby. Or you know, I don't respect her, don't really want anything to do with her, but now she's pregnant. So there's no discipline. If you're going to be casual, at least be very disciplined with it. As in, even your casual partners, there's a criteria, there's a threshold of, if worst case scenario, if anything did happen, I'd be okay with us being together. Even if I can't dedicate the time and energy into creating something now. But when men completely drop their standards with casual relationships, they find themselves in situations they can't handle.
What should women do then if they're caught in this casual sex trap, the not truly valuing themselves?
Yeah.
What should they be doing, and how should they be moving to move different?
Ask yourself the question, is being with him going to make me feel ashamed of myself or proud of myself? And if the answer is, I leave feeling a bit ashamed of myself, don't do it.
Do you think some women are addicted to feeling the same shame over and over again?
They're not addicted to the shame. They're addicted to the momentary feeling of comfort that he might give, the ego boost he might give, the sense of comfort he might give in those 10, 20 minutes. And then the shame they forget about because they just want to numb the pain of feeling like low, and getting his attention again makes her feel high and loved. And so they forget, but the shame sinks in straight after. And they think the cure to the shame is to get back with him again. Every time he calls her, she feels loved again. She thinks, okay, let me get rid of the shame. I don't feel as embarrassed that he's calling me again. But the real way to get rid of the shame is to exit.
Do you think then women misunderstand what high value truly is?
I think the social media misunderstands what high value is. Social media measures high value by just having money. But truly high value is ensuring that you give, not only do you have a lifestyle that is high value, but you also create an emotional connection that is high value. You create a sense of safety, loyalty, and trust that's also high value, hard to achieve. But if it's just like, oh, he's really rich, but she's cheating, he's cheating, it's a messy environment, what's high value about that? Who envies that?
So these people then that are in these open relationships, essentially what you're saying then is they're just in those relationships, not because they're truly, in essence, happy with it, but they're just dealing with wounds that they don't even know they're dealing with.
They're pleasure seeking. What's happening is there's some level of internal turmoil, and they're thinking pleasure seeking is going to get rid of that sadness, is going to get rid of that emptiness, is going to get rid of that shame. But pleasure seeking is the opposite of happiness. True happiness comes from stable, healthy peace.
So what about all these girls then that do like things like OnlyFans and stuff like that are going around, they're making 100K a month, they're calling themselves girl bosses, all this kind of stuff like that. On a psychological level, are they that, or are they the girl boss, or is that a false economy that they've bought into, being sold a narrative by social media?
I don't believe any human being can reveal and allow others to access the most sacred part of them without feeling some shame. I'm sure the money helps. But there's an element of shame and guilt every time I do that. And then afterwards you have to think, God, this dirty old man, oh, I wish I didn't have to kiss him, but I'll just do it anyway. And so when you have that extreme level of shame and guilt, the only way to feel good about it is to pretend you're in control of it and to take control. And how you take control? By boasting about it, pretending it's great. It's a bit like people who are super, super overweight and they say, I'm fabulous. I'm
big boned.
I'm fabulous. I'm beautiful. No, you're unhealthy. You struggle when you go up and down the stairs. You feel bad when you look at your body. There's no way you can't, because it's unhealthy. So the only way you compensate is by telling yourself you love it. But when we suppress how we truly feel, because the reality is these OnlyFans women, if they were made of money and came from lots of money and had lots of money and were truly secure and happy in a great relationship with family and friends and partner, would they be doing it?
You don't see anyone doing OnlyFans that comes from generational wealth.
Never. Impossible, because there's a legacy.
Because legacy wealth doesn't have access to that kind of content.
Another thing you don't see, and I think this is important in social media, is a lot of high value men, they teach, on the Fresh and Fit, is that she should be half your age, she should be, like this. People that come from money, men that come from money, do not date women half their age. You don't see Mark Zuckerberg doing that. You'll never see Bill Gates doing that. People that come from a legacy and a family, they select people who they can bring to family dinners because it's a legacy. They look at a woman's family. People with new money use women the same way that new money use a gold chain. It's a status symbol. So somebody with new money, of course, will be with a woman half his age and show off with that. Somebody who comes from generational wealth and comes from a family background will know that his dad will say, what are you doing? Bring a proper woman in, and then we'll talk. And so they know they've got an institution to answer to.
So what you're saying then essentially is that men of high value and high worth, in this sake, wouldn't date the single mum from the broken home, not because the single mum's not good and she's not attractive and all that stuff, but because it doesn't tick the criteria to bring
compromise.
Okay.
Just like a high value woman wouldn't date a guy that's completely broken or anything like that. They don't have to compromise. They don't have to compromise. That's what truly high value requires. It requires your partner not having to compromise. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a single mom or coming from a broken home or anything like that. But a true high value man also has a high value kind of background, usually. So they know that they haven't got time for, or they haven't got the effort for dealing with too many overheads. So they try and select wisely. But I actually do think it's wonderful when they do date single mums and do adopt a child and stuff. I actually think it's wonderful.
I have to say, I know some women that are single mums that are not only phenomenal mums to their children, but also have done the work as well. And they may have made mistakes, but those mistakes have turned into like beautiful mistakes. You know what I'm saying?
Even with single dads, I think when you get to a certain age in your life, and having somebody else's children is actually a blessing. Yeah, you realize that it's a blessing. It doesn't always have to be my child only, your child only. What happens when you date somebody who's got children is you get an access into what their priorities are in life. If they have children and they're still out in the club all day, every day, not got their priorities straight, you're thinking they'll never have their priorities straight. Whereas if they have children, you realize that they become highly domesticated. They're in line. They've got their goals and vision. It's like I get an insight. I get foresight into what you would be like in the future. I already get it. So it's perfect.
What do you think the biggest like misguided lie that you see in the social setting right now? That kind of misguides everyone on how life should be, and they think it's working for them, but it's actually not.
In relationship sense, do you think?
In all senses, like the biggest lie on the social media scene in terms of like, you know, how people should move.
I think the biggest lie is phrases like be independent, be self-sufficient. You don't need anyone. You'll be fine. You got this. That's not how we're designed. You take a brand new baby. If they aren't codependent on anybody, that baby will literally die. Human beings are designed biochemically for connection. They're designed to be codependent. They're designed to love each other. They're designed to be in tribes. Never in history have people not lived in tribes. It takes 5-6 people to raise a child because that's how much emotional connection they are required to have. Now, we now live in a hyper-independent society that is totally individualistic and teaching everybody, you'll be fine, you got this, self-improvement, self-esteem, self, and nothing to do with a group affiliation. So what happens is when you don't feel great, you feel like you've lost at life. Whereas when we had group settings, it's like, okay, I don't feel great, but my group is doing really well. My family is doing really well. My tribe is doing really well. I'm good. But now we don't have that resilience because we're totally encouraged to be solo.
Do you think, though, that the lack of... Obviously, you come from a religious background. Yeah. Obviously, you're fasting at the moment. Mm-hmm. Do you think that your religion has instilled the values? And do you think because we've stepped away from religion a bit, and whether it's being a Christian or Jewish or whatever religion, do you think because we've stepped away from that it's become harder to have that grounding in kind of sense of morals?
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing. Humans are designed to follow some kind of rules. We need a manual. This is how life is. We human beings need a manual. And I really saw it during COVID. What happened during COVID is people who thought they followed the rules the best actually thought they were the best people in society. They thought we're the best. Like, I wear my mask everywhere. I sanitize everything. I'm the best. Because what happens is we need rules, because it tells us that we're a good person when we follow rules. And it's, you know, like when you get the work snitches that will snitch on people at work because they think following the rules makes them a good person. That's what people think. Now, when you get if you don't follow religion, you're still going to be following rules, whether it's from the government, whether it's from social media, whether it's from your friends. You're going to follow social norms. Isn't it better that we follow social norms which I believe were either sent by God or good for our soul? Even if you don't believe it's by God, the general rules tend to be love thy neighbor, give to charity, pray, disconnect from this world. The rules tend to be good for your soul. So I just think that you're going to follow rules anyway. Why not choose rules that are actually healthy? And I know people think, but there's unhealthy rules in there. But look where society's taken us. We're now going down the route where people think that in order to be a good person, you have to accept people's genders, whatever they want to define it as, accept people that might want to, they're now changing the rules to something about like children being able to give consent, and like almost pushing pedophilia because we follow the norms.
Do you think though that's something that's actively being driven now, that they're trying to sexualize society? Because I know that before this interview, I was on Twitter just reading a tweet, and then this Sam Smith thing. I don't know if you saw Sam Smith the other night. Yeah, I think that's obviously on a personal level. I think it's disgraceful, the kind of stuff that's going on with Sam Smith and the way that he's moving in front of like concerts full of children. And is that something you think that's, from a psychological level, when you look at someone like Sam Smith and the way that he's moving right now, what do you see? Do you
I see depression.
Right, okay.
I see depression, and that's not just from his sexualized behavior, it's from his body. The first sign of depression is how much you give up on what you put into your body. Wow. Then you start losing respect for yourself. This is what happens when you I say this to my clients that are overweight. I say, I would love to help you, but I promise you, until you start working out, it's limited what I can do for you. Because this is what happens.
That's powerful, that is.
Yeah, it's limited and this is why I'm not fat shaming in any way, but this is what happens when we gain weight. Every morsel we're putting into our mouth, we're losing respect for ourselves. When you're in shape and you have a cheat meal, you'd feel like you deserve it. But when you're out of shape and you do it, you feel guilty afterwards. You're slowly losing respect for yourself. And then when we lose respect for ourselves, our self-esteem drops. And then when our self-esteem drops, we then we look for extravagant ways to show we're confident. So what will happen is when you've got low self-esteem, you want to be famous. Or when you've got low self-esteem, you might want to do threesomes. You look for extravagant ways to feel good again. Now, when I saw I didn't even pay attention to his costume. His weight was the first thing I noticed. All right, okay, there's a depression. Let's have a look at the symptoms of you're distracting people from the depression by doing all this nonsense. But really, you're sad.
So all the extravagant behavior that people assume in their reality in society now is all a mask for the depression that they're hiding by their body weight, just alone.
Yeah, body weight. It doesn't mean if you've got great body, your self-esteem is high. I'm not saying that. But the quickest way to assess someone's self-esteem is to look at their body, because it tells me what you're doing to it on a daily basis.
What about these guys that when I lived in Australia, I'd go into gyms like World Gym, which is like one of these bodybuilding gyms. I'd go in there. I'd see these lads that were carved out like Greek Adonises, you know, like Michelangelo's been there with a chisel. And I'd look at him, and when I looked into a conversation and looked into their eyes, like I could see a broken man. Like
but even those men will be injecting something. They'll be doing something to their body that's not good for it. And here's the thing: your body is basically your home. It's where we place our psychology. It's a home to put your brain. Now, how you treat that home, like if you're renting a place, if you treat it like shit, you obviously don't respect the place. And same thing, if you treat your body like shit, you don't respect it. So there's something going on in that. So just like if I trashed a hotel room, if I trash my body either through alcohol, through steroids, through overeating, through having sex with the wrong people, I don't respect it. Something's going on in the psychology.